Hello? That's better. Okay, sorry, I'll start again. So we launched Saint Roche 4 years ago with the mission to launch a sustainable fashion brand, focusing on preserving artisanal skills and textile techniques. As a designer, sustainability creates pretty significant challenges during the design process. We mostly work in India. I'd say 85% of our work is produced in India. One of the main problems is fabric sourcing. Sourcing our raw materials available in India as a small company, can be a massive challenge. We can't buy huge minimums. That's one massive issue that I have to work around. And the other one is that we work with hand workers, specifically hand embroidery and hand printers, which I love. It's a passion. But there's a massive time constraint with that. So we have to. These challenges are, as we evolve as a business and as the industry evolves, we have to kind of think of different ways and different options to work around this, but that's what I find exciting and challenging.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, moving on to Kathleen from Reformation. And I'll just start by saying, one of my favorite quotes is Albert Einstein: "We can't solve today's problems with the same consciousness that created those problems." And Reformation was actually founded in its DNA on sustainability and has been an incredible role model for this movement. So, given that you were born as a direct-to-consumer, vertically integrated company from waste to factory with sustainability in your DNA, how has your unique business model come to life and scaled over time, both financially and physically?
Thanks, Marcy. Are we good on audio now? Okay, we'll just keep sharing. Reformation started in 2009 by actually refashioning, retailoring one-of-a-kind vintage garments. So obviously that's a little cottage, it's a lot smaller. And we were actually based in a storefront in La Brea, redoing it in the back, selling it in the front. So a few sewing machines. As we've scaled the brand, I think the real focus, like Marcy said, is really designing out waste and doing things differently, really trying to flip the model and challenge the status quo. So we quickly started sourcing dead stock or over-ordered excess fabric and designing new styles, but with a vintage-inspired aesthetic. And then when I joined the company in 2014, we were trying to really define how you could keep that same ethos, but really grow and scale a brand. So defining what better materials looks like, defining what sustainable manufacturing should be, and really almost forcing the definition and standardizing that within the brand so that we could continue to live out our mission. So today we own and operate our own factory just a few miles from here in Vernon, California. We have a factory team of about 300 people, and we're still direct to consumer. We've grown our e-com business. We have about 13 stores, and I think the challenge has always been, how do you become a proof of concept? How do you show that you can do things responsibly, do things differently, and still have a really thriving, healthy business? And so we're really proud of our progress. We still have a lot to figure out, a lot to do, but it's been fun to see the evolution of the brand.
Great. Thank you. So there's been a number of efforts through the years to create and curate these e-commerce platforms online of sustainable fashion, and I'm going to now address Nina, who
We'll just use the same one. Okay, much better. So we very firmly at Fashion Kind believe that luxury not only can be synonymous with sustainability and ethics, but that it should be, and that you needn't sacrifice style, fit, quality, or design in order for that to be the case. And so when we came to market, I founded Fashion Kind in about 2014. We felt very strongly that we wanted to change the conversation around sustainable fashion, and instead of putting sustainability out there first, put fashion out there first. So it's fashion first, impact second. We believe that if this is going to become the norm, as we are on track for it to be, that these pieces of fashion needed to be designed, created, put out there as pieces of fashion, and that you'd see them in a magazine, you'd see them on a street, and you'd want them without knowing their story. But then once you learn it, you realize you're not just consuming like you always have been. You buy a product and you become a part of a story. You become connected to the people, the places, the processes, the initiatives behind each piece. And so we really approach it from an impact or fashion first, impact second standpoint. And it's really been amazing, the feedback we've received, not only from a consumer standpoint, but from a designer standpoint. You know, we say we're champions of each designer that we work with. We are, you know, we've been told by a lot of designers that traditional retailers aren't the ideal retail partner for them, and that's because story is not a part of their narrative. And it's very difficult for it to authentically become a part of its narrative. So for us, storytelling is a big part of what we do, but it's also not just taking this layer of sustainability and putting it over the traditional retail experience. It's using sustainability as the lens to kind of reestablish discovery into the luxury shopping experience, which is something that used to be a huge value add, particularly of the luxury sector. But as we've seen this convergence of boutiques and department stores and other retailers, you find the same brands, the same pieces everywhere. And so for us, we have consumers that come to us not only because of our values and what we stand for, and that we've approved all of the designers on our platform, but because they can't find these pieces anywhere else, and that's how they get their discovery back in the luxury shopping experience.
Yeah, and I'll just add, you know, the internet has really changed the game for this entire movement. You know, the greatest challenge we probably had historically in driving, you know, fashion forward was how do we tell these stories in a classic retail environment. And millennials, in their desire and demand for transparency, where they can pull the curtain back and ask the questions, who made my clothes, where are they coming from, how are they being made, has become a massive catalyst for all of us and for this movement and for the transformation of the fashion industry. So there's been almost no greater force than Eileen Fisher. So we're going to move on to Amy. And Amy, can you share with us, you know, Eileen's personal epiphany, which has really not only propelled the company but the movement forward?
Yeah, and I'll do it really quickly because I can see we're running out of time. You know, we were founded with some really great values, founded with a commitment to natural fibers, founded with a commitment to longevity, timeless designs. And there were little things that we did along the way to play with those values, but it wasn't until Eileen in 2012 took her very first supply chain trip. I highly recommend it. I call it a reality tour. She wouldn't say that, but it was this idea, you know, she visited for the first time some suppliers here in LA as well as in China. And she started to hear about their personal stories, and more importantly, but also she started hearing about the global water crisis. So this is only 6 years ago, and it really struck her in a way that was different than how she had felt about it before. It was no longer a humanitarian issue for her, but a very, very important business issue. Already in 2012, there were massive sections of this planet that have less water than the demand calls for. And when she looked at the map of that water crisis, she realized those are the same places where we manufacture our clothes and or grow the fiber that goes into the clothes. Already we were threatened by how could we continue business as usual given the state of the planet. So she came back and had a call to action for us and said, we've got to pick up the pace, we have to go deeper, we have to go broader, we need to do something to change the the current business, the way that we're doing business. And so that completely, it elevated the argument. It changed our internal structure. We formed, a cross-company working group instead of focusing the work just in my team, and really built all this responsibility into everybody's roles. And that's where we are today with Vision 2020 and soon to be Vision 2025 or Vision 2030.
Amazing, thank you. And Sheila, just to build on, with Athleta, you've been there 7 years. What has changed through the years for you? What has worked and what hasn't worked as you've continued to adopt sustainability at Athleta? And then ultimately, how has that influenced Gap in general?
Sure, yeah. So at Athleta, sustainability has always been in our DNA. So as a high-performance brand that's really for women and girls sports, playing in the outdoors and just the power of being outdoors when you are doing your activities, whether I'm a kiteboarder and go stand-up paddling and surfing, super important to us to maintain a really beautiful, healthy world. So we think of sustainability really in two big pillars. One is on the product side and one's on the people side, especially because our mission is all about igniting a very healthy, active, confident community of women and girls who unleash each other's limitless potential. So for us, the empowerment of women across our supply chain and across all of our teams is incredibly important. So we really set off on a journey a couple of years ago by really resetting our mission and making sure that front and center we're a purpose-driven brand, and really regrounding all of our teams and our mission at the highest level. And then really making sustainability a huge focus. We realized that we just weren't doing enough, and that we wanted to play a bigger leadership role, both within the industry, but also within the Gap Inc. portfolio. So we've done a couple things. We've set really high goals for ourselves. So we put out goals publicly for 2020. We want to have over 80% of our products be in sustainable materials. We also want to be part of the Gap Inc. program and are part of the program that's called PACE, where we want to take 1 million women through the empowerment program in our factory workers, who are the majority of which are women, and we're well on our way to do that. So we're very excited about both of those big initiatives. We also have been B Corp certified since then, and we also participate in fair trade. So again, we're on a big journey, and there's a lot of learnings that are happening, and just as you guys talked about, there's certainly challenges along the way. For us, it's just as important to really, with a high-performance technical sports product, we need to make sure that it performs well for her, but that it's also very beautiful. We are about flattering her beautiful feminine form, plus also making sure it's sustainable. So that's a high bar for us as a cross-functional team. So we spend a lot of time working together on just continuing to push forward on this. And right now we have over 40% of our products that are sustainable. So we're on the journey and well on our way, but we have a lot more work to do, and we really focus on that together.
So we have just 4 or 5 minutes left. So just maybe just touch on why you got B Corp certified. What does that actually mean? Without assuming that everybody in the audience knows what that means. And I know that Eileen Fisher is also B Corp certified. Can you just touch on that briefly, and then we'll...
Sure, yeah. So actually our CFO is really passionate about this topic, and he actually brought it to the table. So he said, can we become B Corp certified? And so again, that means that we're part of a community of amazing companies that is certified by B Lab, and it means that you're really transparent and that your sustainable and conscious business practices across a whole range of factors are, meet their standards, and you get the certification, and you really have to keep re-getting the certification year over year. So it sets a very high bar for us, and the reason it was very important for us was one, we're all athletes, so we do like setting high goals, and we wanted to make sure that we had that external review of our practices and also a high standard to hold ourselves to. But then we also love being part of a community. So Athleta is all about the power of the collective. And so we love being with fellow companies like Eileen Fisher and Patagonia and others, and just being in that community and feeling like we can make a change that's larger than ourselves. We believe that especially in sustainability, it's important to share the progress and make sure that we are really driving the industry forward together. And again, as a company, as part of Gap Inc., the power in our scale, when we do the right thing, it can make a huge difference. And so we have a lot of scale and we can have a high impact. So that's really exciting to us, and we're very proud to be in the company that we're in.
Thank you. And Amy, can you share with everybody about Eileen Fisher's path to circularity, even including a move from apparel into home recently?
Yeah, so thank you for this. Again, really quickly, we've been taking back our clothes, our previously worn clothes, no longer wanted clothes from our customers since 2009. And to date, we've collected over 1 million garments, all Eileen Fisher. We collect about 3,000 garments a week through our stores. And about half of those we have been able to clean and resell through standalone Renew stores and through our company stores. The other half we have to chop up and make something new out of them. And so we have this beautiful process, we call it design work, that is taking bits of the clothes that we can't make anymore and felting them together and making exquisite upholstery weight fabric that we turn into pillows that are sold in a couple of our stores, as well as ABC Home and Planet in New York City. And we're experimenting with coats, we're experimenting with furniture covering. So yet to be seen where this is going to go, but it's a really exciting new development.
And Kathleen, I know Reformation, obviously circularity has also been kind of in the life force of the company, going from idea to store in 42 days, built on a zero waste model. Can you speak a little bit about, where does ThreadUp and RefScale come in, and how do you plan and forecast fabric procurement at Reformation, given
Marcy just throwing a lot at me in one question. But yeah, we can definitely touch on some of that together. Then I'm happy to talk to anybody one-off after. But I think starting with the idea of circularity, that's something that's been thrown around a lot already this morning that I'm sure you're going to hear more of today. But I think the reality is that there's enough textile, there's enough garments in existence today to meet the global demand. So as a brand that's making new apparel, we still have a responsibility to think about how we put those resources to use, how we can break this linear model, and really think about designing out waste, like I mentioned before, but also redefining that waste into something that can be circulated back into the fashion industry. So it's a big challenge. I think there's a lot of cross-functional, cross-brands collaborations to try to solve this problem. But some of the things that we're testing, first, we talked about fabric procurement. So from the very beginning, Reformation has really tried to design out finished good and fabric waste. So we flip the model, we buy our fabrics ahead and we design into the fabric inventory so that we're really trying to limit that fabric liability, but also the fabric waste at the end of seasons. So by kind of rethinking the model, you can actually address a lot of those problems more systematically, and you don't have to do it at the end of the pipe. Similar with finished goods, we run limited collections, limited runs. So the hope or intention is that any new style is really a test. You make less, you see how it performs, and then you make more to meet that demand and to meet the kind of like, you create some agility, right? So it's really just based on what the customer's asking for and a little bit smarter planning. So I think that, I'm getting a lot of feedback here. I think that there's some things that you can do, again, really upfront, even before you're thinking about take back and recycling. At the end of the pipe, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm trying to understand, this is so distracting, I'm really sorry. How to understand what the brand's responsibility should be in that take back. We've offered a ref recycling program for the last few years. We just partnered with ThreadUp to actually encourage our customers to participate in the resale markets and some of these other platforms that are emerging. And really inspired by Eileen Fisher and other brands that are doing some of that take back and remanufacture directly. So I think I'm going to leave it at that.
Awesome, thank you. So just moving. Moving on to the smaller independent fashion brand of Saint Roche. Sue, can you tell us a little bit about your supply chain and how you've been able to incorporate an artisan philosophy and about your work with Nest?
Yes, so our supply chain, which is mostly in India, I work directly with numerous small factories, artisans. I travel over there frequently and work very hands-on with them. It's really about developing relationships and, promoting working with them and their business development. Earlier this year, we joined Nest, which we're thrilled to be part of, and this has opened up a whole global network of artisans and home workers and small factories that I didn't have any contact with. So this has been great for us because they have certain standards. We know they're going to be paid fairly, they work in safe conditions. Women empowerment is high up there as well. But so Nest has not only opened those doors to us, but this also enables us to measure our social impact. So that's been fantastic.
Okay, so with 1 minute left, we're gonna wrap with Nina. So Nina, you've built, this amazing platform that gives consumers basically the ability to vote with their dollars, right? So how have you been able to translate the impacts on your site and in your work to communicate back to the consumer, the not just the opportunities that we all have collectively, but the actual role that they're playing?
It's a good question, and it's one that I think is a very tricky one, to find the right balance between addressing impact and not taking away from the sexiness and the thrill of shopping. And so what we've found is really not going to the consumers and saying, hey, buy this because it's sustainable, or not, putting that at the forefront when they're on a product page, but rather let the pieces speak for themselves. And then if the consumer wants more, it's there, but it may not be above the fold. It may not be the focus right away. It's more kind of that amazing discovery you make once you get into the product and you already like it by the way that it looks and it's and feels and quality and fits, and then you find out, oh my goodness, it's handmade by artisans in India, or it's made in New York City's garment district, by one artisan from start to finish instead of one person, on sleeves, one person on hemming, and so it's this idea of using storytelling as a means of, because you don't necessarily want to hit the consumer over the head with facts either all the time when it comes to luxury shopping, and so how can we really tell beautiful stories that bring pieces to life and that address that impact, but in a way that, again, does not take away from the fashion itself. And so it's something that we're still developing, and we're actually launching a new site, new version of our site that even emphasizes this more next week. You heard it here first. But it's, I would never say that we have all the answers. It's always, there's always room to grow, and we're always open to feedback and knowledge sharing. And just because, things have always been done a certain way, doesn't mean that's the way they should be done. So that's kind of how we always approach it.
Awesome. Well, it looks like our time's up. But I want to thank everybody for being here and thank all these incredible panelists for being on the panel today.